YouTube at the same time. Hello, hello, hello. We are now live. There we go.
Hey guys.
Hello. So we wanted to just jump on here. This is Authentic Marriages in the House. I am Cara.
I'm Jared.
And for those of you who do not know us, we are the co-founders of Authentic Marriages. This is a community for communities of color, couples of color, Black, brown couples. We are here for you to up level your marriage, take it to the next level. And we are so excited to announce our retreat for 2023.
Exciting. It's going to be in Belize. We are so looking forward to this retreat. The last couple of retreats we've had have been such a big blast. It's been awesome experiences for everybody who has come. So we're just really excited about Belize. And there's so many things about Belize that we're just excited for you guys to experience with us.
Yes. So, hey, Mayosha, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, are you going to join us in Belize next year?
I hope so.
We just wanted to get on live here real quick just to talk about our retreat for next year, what you guys can expect, why we chose Belize, and what unique things there are going to be for Belize. So if you have any questions, drop it in the chat and or send us a DM if you have any like personalized questions. But the first things first is like why we chose Belize. So our first retreat was in Aruba in 2021.
Right.
Then our last retreat this year was in Jamaica. And so for 2023, we have chosen the beautiful country of Belize because Belize is an experience unto itself. So Belize is like one of those unique countries where you can't say, oh, I've done this, I've been here before,
Right.
or I've had this experience, right? We love the biodiversity and cultural diversity that Belize has to offer. And so that was one of the things that drew us to Belize. Like when we visited Belize, we were like, wow, this would be an amazing place to host a couples retreat.
Exactly.
So the two types of experiences that we have curated for our destination retreat in Belize next year is that we are going to do, Belize has what is unique about Belize is that you get both the beach experience. There's a side of the country that is coastal, and then they have more of a nature jungle. They call it the jungle side. Right. The jungle is not like what you think of when we hear the word jungle.
People get afraid, right? So like, when you hear that word,
we think spiders and snakes and bugs, and we just think we think naked and
think about like rainforest or something like that in South America or something like that. But it's very different. It's very different. More like how I was saying, a nature preserve kind of experience. So you get to be around this kind of really nature preserved kind of environment, but it's not like you have to be watching on
exactly. It's not like Naked and Afraid or anything like that on TV, right? Exactly. So the jungle side of Belize is really, think of it as more of like the eco-tourist side. So the ecotourism side, like this might be like if you've ever been to Costa Rica and you've experienced their ecotourism. So it's not primitive. Like there are roads, there's running water, there's electricity. We're not going to be sleeping in no tent. Right. It's not camping. But it's just a different vibe. So the first side we're going to have the beach experience. So the 4-day retreat is going to be from July 8th to 12th in 2023. And those 4 days, 4 nights, we're going to spend on the beach side of Belize. And so on that side of Belize, you get to experience snorkeling, deep sea diving if you're a diver, fishing. The guys already are like planning a fishing trip for that part of Belize. So Belize is just really, really known for its biodiversity. And one of the things that Jared, you wanted to mention was about the reef.
Yeah, exactly. So the second largest reef in the world, right? So Australia is the biggest one. The next biggest one is in Belize, right? And because of that, it has a lot of biodiversity when it comes to the fishes there. So you can jump in the water and not too far out, you'll be seeing all sorts of beautiful fishes, and there's just so many things in the water that is so easily accessible. And because Belize is a completely different kind of country compared to many more tourist type countries, a lot of that biodiversity still remains there. So you can see it very easily, interact with it very easily. So it's just beautiful. It has a great blue hole there as well, which is one of the most beautiful biodiverse places in the world, where you can do deep sea diving and see all sorts of beautiful, beautiful aqua animals. So it's just one of those places where you just can't replicate it anywhere else. You could say, well, I went to Jamaica, so I went to St. Kitts or I went to St. Lucia, and may have similar experiences, but Belize is just a very, very different place. So that's why we want people to kind of enjoy it with us, because when we went, we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so Belize has its own vibe. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, especially for those people who have traveled either with us to Aruba or Jamaica or maybe other Caribbean islands or Mexico, is that it's a complete, like, if you've had an experience in Jamaica, Aruba, Mexico, you need to like erase all of that from your mind, right? Like Belize is a completely different vibe, but it's great. So one of the things that I like about Belize is that because it is different from the perspective of it is not an over industrialized tourist complex. So there is no tourist traps that you're going to find in Belize that you might find typically in other like more touristy countries, right? Like Jamaica and Aruba. Belize is different from the perspective that it's not oversaturated with a lot of like big chain hotels or big box hotels.
Right.
So it doesn't really have like, say, your typical, quote unquote, your typical all-inclusive experience or those big type of hotels that you would have in like Cancun or Montego Bay in Jamaica, or in Aruba even. So that's a whole different vibe. Right? Because you're talking about small boutique hotels that may have like 30 or less rooms in a lot of the hotels. So so that's a very different vibe. And we actually like that. Because what that does for us is that allows us to make our own fun and for authentic marriages to really create and curate a very intimate and unique experience with each other. So we felt that the first stop, the first 4 nights is going to be on the beach side of Belize, the coastal side of Belize. And so on that side, for everybody who likes the diving, the fishing, the snorkeling, marine life, anything to do with water, that's going to be the first 4 days. The second 3 days is optional. So we have decided this year, which is different from our previous retreats. We have decided, most people who come to our retreats actually want to stay longer, right? So Aruba we did for 4 nights, Jamaica we did for 5 nights, and every single time we host a retreat, people are staying 1, 2, or 3 nights more. So this time we were like, why don't we just make that a part of the retreat, but just make it an optional add-on for people who actually want to stay the entire week in Belize and then experience a completely different side of the island. Not island, country, because Belize is not an island.
And that's the funny thing, because the beach experience that you have,
you think it's an island, but it's not.
And Belize does have some very small islands off this coast, so you can actually have that island experience if you visit Belize. But because it's that experience, it can feel like you're in this kind of tropical island experience that you're having, but it's different. It's very different. And so there is like a very unique jungle experience that you can have.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm so excited about this. So there is, on the beach side, the area that we're staying in is called, let me see if I can pronounce it correctly, Placencia. I think
Placencia.
Yes. I always get tongue-tied with it.
Right.
But that particular area, one of the cultural parts of that area. So going back to Belize and its unique diversity with culture as well as land and sea and all of those things, is that in Belize you can find like native, what we would in America might call Native Americans, but like native people to the continent of South America. You will find Spanish people who probably came from during colonization, right? Like maybe more like Spain, and those Spanish countries. And you will find Black people who sound Jamaican, but speak Spanish.
Exactly. Many of whom were actually descendants of Jamaicans who moved there like 70 to 80 years ago.
Yes.
Exactly. And so their descendants are there. So they sound Jamaican, but they also speak Spanish.
So in Central America, there are a lot of Jamaican-looking people, Jamaican-sounding people, but they are Spanish people from the perspective of like they have adopted the culture because they've been there, a few generations. And so that's a very interesting, because it's like they have like oxtail and stewed chicken and rice and
things
peas.
That you associate with the Caribbean islands.
And then you do a double take because you hear them speak Spanish and you're like, but with a Jamaican accent. So it's like, this is very interesting. And then they have a group of people called the Garfunia, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. But the Garfunia tribe are descendants of Africans.
Right.
And one of the biggest differences between, say, the Garfunia tribe and like other Black people that live in the country is that the Garfunia tribe people literally have held on to aspects of their African culture. So drumming, language, food, clothing. They just have that unique difference between, say, like us who are from the Caribbean. Jared is from Jamaica, I'm from Trinidad. Like those of us who are from the Caribbean, they are different from the perspective that like, no, like they could like legit trace their ancestry back directly, but also culturally they have been able to maintain it in a way that we haven't, right? Like other members of the diaspora have not been able to maintain their culture. So I think that that's another unique thing about Belize, is that like, wow, like here is this like African tribe, this group of people who have been able to maintain their food, their culture, their language, and they are Belizean at the same time, right? And so that's also an experience that we have tied into the retreat as well for the first 4 days, that where we're staying on the Placencia side. We're gonna do a cultural tour to experience, because I think for all of us from the Black and Brown community, it's like, yes, like we want to experience, we want to have those like cultural experiences and be able to have experiences like outside of the resort and be able to really get a feel and a taste for the culture. So that's one of the things that we love to do, is travel. But I like to travel in a way where I get to experience a culture locally,
the true culture,
versus like the traditional tourist way with like, you know, the tour buses and the tour guides and stuff like that. Not saying that that is bad, but there is a difference when you can like taste a culture locally from a local viewpoint, when you have that vantage point. But anyway, I just wanted to share that about the Garfunia tribe. So the second half of the trip we will be doing in Cayo district, and that's the quote unquote jungle side. But as I mentioned, it's not what we think of when we think of jungle. So I just say, think of it as like if we were differentiating between mountains versus beach, right? And so it's just a different experience. It is where the ATM cave is located, and that is a must do if you're going to Belize. It is a once of a lifetime opportunity to tour a cave that has literal artifacts from like Mayan, like that from that Mayan age.
Couple thousand years, 1,000 years ago.
So it's so good, and but it is, I would put the caveat that this experience is for those who are physically fit, because it is a bit of a more strenuous tour, because you'll have to do a little bit of swimming, hiking to get to the cave. But it's beautiful. And when I say swimming, you're swimming in like crystal clear water. So it's not like, you know, murky, murky dark waters where snakes live, right?
And because it's, you know, it's in a cave system, it's nice and cool. So it's not like you're out in the hot sun, like burning up, like doing all of this physical activity. So it's an actually very pleasant experience when you're doing it. And because you're doing it with a group, it's a shared experience. It enriches it so much. And, you know, the ATM experience when we did it was like, wow, when we were finished with it, like, this was like one of the, you know, a great experience.
One of the best tours we had ever done.
In all of our travels. So it's definitely a must do. And we will be doing it
on our extension.
Exactly.
On our extension. So that's one of the things that you could do on the jungle side. The other stuff that you can do on the jungle side includes zip lining, river tubing, rappelling waterfalls, visiting the Mayan, is it called
ruins?
The Mayan ruins. And so, you know, you think of like Mexico has a lot of those Mayan ruins that people visit and stuff like that. So does Belize, right? So again, like that's part of this unique cultural, you know, experience that you're going to have. It's like you're going to get to see so much diversity in one small country. And that's one of the things that makes Belize very unique, and it's a whole vibe. So this retreat is really, and this country is really for people who actually enjoy experiencing a country. Like you enjoy trying new foods. You enjoy going to different places, experiencing different cultures. You enjoy the immersive experience of being invited into, somebody else's culture and by tasting their food. One of the tours that we're going to have does involve, with the Garfunia tribe, does involve us cooking with them. Right. So you have to be a person that enjoys that, right? Exactly. That this is like me saying, hey guys, welcome to Trinidad. Come into my home and let me teach you how to make roti. Let me teach you how to make some curry chicken. Let me teach you how to do this. And then we're going to eat together at the table. That's what that experience is going to be like. So you have to be somebody that like wants to do that and enjoys that. And the other thing that you have to be okay with is the fact that because of the way Belize is, it is not, as I say, it's not this like typical like chain box brand of tourism where you're going to find a TGIF or a McDonald's or a Burger King or a Wendy's or all of these like fast food chains that would be available in places like Jamaica or Mexico. So Belize does not have fast food chain restaurants. It has local restaurants run by local people providing local food. So that's the other thing that you just have to be aware of, is that it's a different vibe. It's an amazing vibe, but you have to also be okay with like, oh, I'm not going to have McDonald's today in Belize.
Exactly.
Right.
But one of the great things about having those kind of unique experiences is that it puts you in a situation as a couple in these unique experiences. And what we really like about that is that it actually changes the dynamic of your relationship, because you're trying and doing new things together. And that gives your relationship like energy and life. And you'd be surprised how much you get out of being able to just be as a husband, as a wife together in this unique place where all of your regular responsibilities in life are put aside and you're able to just be yourselves, experiencing something new and experiencing it with each other and seeing each other in different lights that you probably haven't in such a long time. And that's one of the great things about our retreats, is that we're really big on experiences. And Belize is experience. It's
a whole vibe. It's a whole experience, if you haven't gotten that so far from anything that I've said yet. But that brings us to our other point about what makes our retreat with Authentic Marriages different than, say, what you think of when you hear the word couples retreat, right? Because we have friends. What is funny to me, and I was telling Jared this yesterday, is that our own friends, people who know us, people who fellowship with us, people who have sat and played game night with us, sat at our dinner table, hear Jared cutting up and cracking jokes and stuff like that, somehow got into their mind that a retreat, even though it's hosted by us, is something that is stuffy, is something that is like you're in class all day, like a conference, and that you're going to be like kind of locked into this learning room, and you're going to be like in this like 9 to 5 class, right?
Not at all.
And we're like, but you know us though.
Exactly. Why would you think that we would do anything like that? Why would we
know us personally?
Leave America to travel somewhere to be stuck in a classroom?
Yes.
Like that wouldn't make sense, because that's not, I wouldn't do that.
That is not who we are.
We wouldn't do that ourselves personally. Like we would have been traveling to a different country to sit in a classroom for 9 to 5. And so we definitely wouldn't want that for a couple traveling with us, because we know there's different ways people learn.
Yes.
And there's different ways in which you can improve your relationships. And there may be a time for you to sit down and learn some
stuff.
We
have those. Don't worry. We have those.
We have things like that where people can really learn and really enrich their relationship in really deep ways. But this is a different way of doing that. Experiences is a big way of changing your relationship and enriching your relationship. And so having fun is actually good for your relationship, right? And so on all of our retreats, we're all big about having fun as an individual couple, but also within the collective. Because within the collective, you build these other relationships and these other people who are interested in making their marriages better, having fun, hanging out. And when you can hang out with quality people, which is what we always have on our retreats, is quality people, it allows you to set up a community of people that when you finish with our retreats, you have people that, hey,
we're friends,
we're hanging out, we're doing different things together, and then come to the next retreat and we do it all over again.
So speaking of that, listen, let me get in real close with y'all. We do not let any and everybody attend our retreat. All right, y'all. Okay, so to participate in an Authentic Marriages retreat, you either have to be personally invited.
Right.
B, you have to be personally invited by someone who has attended our retreat. C, you have to be a client of mine, so I also know you personally.
Right.
D, you have to come with references, right? Like, as in, like, either I know you personally, somebody I know knows you personally and can vouch with you, vouch for you. I have worked with you before in as an individual client or as a couple, or you guys have been connecting with me through Instagram or social media, and so we've connected in a way and done some type of like face-to-face, like we are not, there is no sales page for our retreat where you can go on there and purchase a ticket.
Automatically just come. Yeah, exactly.
So you will go, if you check the link in the bio, you can do that right now. You can click on our link in our bio to the Celebration of Love retreat. You will see everything that is listed, all the details, the itinerary, where we're going to visit, where we're staying, the options, the prices, everything is on there. But there is no option for you to click purchase.
Right.
Okay. Right. In order for you to click purchase, we have to know who is purchasing. And in order for that to happen, one big step that has to happen is we gotta get on a phone call with you or a Zoom call with you to check your references, basically, right? Like, because it is so important when you are traveling internationally to curate an experience that is a beneficial experience for every single person that is involved, right? Exactly. And so one of the things that we love about our retreat experience is that it is drama-free, conflict-free, right? Even our couples are not on the retreat like falling apart themselves or on the verge of like calling it quits. So because that is the last thing that we would want, is to take a couple on the brink of divorce and then things explode into 1,000 pieces when we're in a foreign country and then they're trapped, because they can't leave until their flight,
and everybody's trapped with them, right? So we make sure that we are very selective about our retreat, because we want as many people to come who want to come, but we want to make sure that those people are going to have a good time, and the people who come with them are also going to have a good time. So we want to make sure that people, are in a good enough place in their relationships to come on these retreats. And if you're not, hey, we have other things that we do that can definitely help to improve your relationship. But we want to make sure that all of our experiences are made for the people who are actually coming.
Yes.
And that's what we do with all of our retreats.
Exactly.
Make sure that it's something that everybody's going to enjoy and take home lifetime memories with them that are going to be positive.
Yes. So one of our friends we had invited to Jamaica last year, and he told us that, he didn't want to come to the retreat because he assumed that it was going to be like a retreat that he had been to that was hosted by
another organization,
other people.
Right. Okay.
And the other people who hosted didn't look anything like us. Right. Okay. Hint, hint. They didn't look anything like us, the other people. And in that retreat, which was a good retreat, it was a different retreat that was hosted by other people of other cultural backgrounds who do not cater to our people. Right. And when you go to a retreat that is hosted by other people who are not of your cultural background,
you're going to have other experiences.
You're going to have a very different experience.
Exactly.
But you cannot compare that experience that was hosted by somebody else of a different cultural background to us, who right? Like who and he said, like, he just assumed that it was going to be this thing where, like, in the other retreat that he went to, where they were basically in a class morning, noon, and night, and it was just very intensive in terms of the demands of like the workshop time that they experienced, and I was just like, why would you think that would be us though? Like, us, right? Like you've sat at our table, right? But all of that to say is that when people hear couples retreat, they just have something in their mind, whether they have experienced it or not. They think of it as like, oh, this is going to be like church. Like I had another sister from church who was like, yeah, like when I go to vacation, I like to relax. I don't want to like for people to be looking at me and wondering where am I, or and it's like, dude, like the retreat is for you. The experience is for you. So you make it what you want it to be. There is no like
mandatory.
Yes, there are no mandatory classes, right? Exactly. There are literally no. If you wake up and you're like, listen, I want to sleep in today, you could sleep in today. If you're like, I want to skip the excursion today, you could skip the excursion today.
And just hang out.
You can do whatever you want to do, right? So don't even feel like if you come to a retreat, you're like bound by the
everything that's happening,
by the itinerary, right? At the same time, everybody who has come to our retreat so far loves the itinerary and the activities that we have planned, because everything, as again, it's a whole vibe, it's a whole experience. Being with Authentic Marriages, being with Cara and Jared, being with us, it's just different. I think one of the things that for me personally that I bring to the table is my gift of hospitality. I want every single person who comes into our presence and who leaves the retreat, I want you to feel like you were just invited into my home and you were treated as a special guest in my home, and that you were loved on by us. Like that is the vibe and the experience that I want you to leave. I don't want to feel, and I don't want to be like so far removed from the people or so far quote unquote up there. Some people get up there where I call them the untouchables, right? I call them like, you know, when you've gotten big and you've gotten famous and you've gotten, you know, extra special, you get to this place in life where you're untouchable, and people are not able to have access to you or talk to you or commune with you or even sit at the table with you and have conversations. And I never want to be in that space, no matter how successful I become, regardless of if I become a multi-billionaire one day, rich and famous. I don't want to be an untouchable.
And we try to make sure that our retreats are, you know, as our name it suggests, authentic, right?
Yes.
So authentic experiences, intimate build experiences, you know, so we want people to be in a space where when they leave, they feel so much better about being there. And that's the thing that I get, you know, retreat after retreat, just talking with folks who have been to them, is like, they'll say, you know, we really needed this. We didn't realize how much we needed this until we came. And then now we're like, man, we definitely loved it. And we're going to make sure that we're there at the next one. And so we try to create these experiences so that people feel like, man, I don't feel drained at the end of it. Like you may think about a classic retreat where it's like, I'm doing all this work and oh my God, all these difficult things we're trying to tackle. And at the end of it, it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. This was tough. Like, no. It's not going to be tough. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun, and it's going to be also a way for you to build your relationship and grow closer together as partners, to be able to do fun adventures together, to have romantic experiences together, to build. Here's the thing, and there's science behind doing things with people, right? So like if we, Jared and I, if we do something together as a couple, that's great. Like we can have a great time alone as a couple. But when we are actually amongst people and we have shared experiences with other people, the fun factor and the enjoyment factor actually multiplies. So you actually have more fun if you're with the right people, that is. But you have more fun with people that you enjoy being around, and people who are a good vibe and have good energy, and you know, they just bring this real fun factor. I remember when we went to Hawaii. So we visited Hawaii about 2 or 3 times already. And by our 3rd time when we gone to Hawaii, I was like, babe, this would be so much better if Chris and Doris was with us. Like, and they're all like traveling buddies that we love to travel with. But it was like, I miss them because I knew the difference that it feels like to travel with people and to share experiences with people who you love, who has good vibe, good energy, and who bring something to the table. Like, I was like, we were there on our anniversary trip and I was missing them, right? And so, but that's just to tell you how it really is a legitimate multiplier effect. And that's a really good way for you to have an exponential experience, is by sharing it with people who have good energy and good vibes.
And that's one of the big things, because I think a lot of the times people say, well, you know, we could just go there on our own. We could just do all of this stuff on your own, which is great. And we encourage people to spend time alone as couples, you know, and have good experiences by themselves. But there's a different dimension that you can't replicate on your own.
You can never ever replicate a great group experience. That is something. Groups have a multiplier effect, both good and bad. Right. So it's like, but when groups are done well, and there is excellent group dynamic and the group vibes well with each other and they have really good energy, man, There is nothing that you can do as a couple or individually that will ever replicate the good energy that a group brings. And I think that is why God made church and God made community and God made us for community, is because he knew this. Like he knew that we would have our greatest experiences with people.
Right.
We also have our greatest heartaches with people, including our spouses, right? Like including our partners. We have our greatest heartaches, but we have our greatest joys at the same time. And so one of the goals of authentic marriages in general is to promote spiritually and emotionally healthy marriages. And so that is our goal through and through. Right. So whether we're having fun, whether we are exploring a country together, whether we're terraining the wilderness with each other, whether we are sitting together around in a circle and just talking about life, or talking about how to become a millionaire, or talking about, spiritual gifts, whatever the case is, the goal is to bring us closer together as a couple and to really ensure that your relationship, your marriage can stand the test of time. Because I actually don't believe in just people staying in relationships that are unhealthy and that are destructive emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Right? I believe that we need to challenge ourselves and we need to work towards making sure that our marriages are spiritually and emotionally healthy. And it's not just a spiritual health that and then we check that box. Right. It's like they go hand in hand. Like I cannot be spiritually healthy and emotionally unhealthy. Right. Like that does not work. And so many people in our Christian community struggle in relationships and struggle to have healthy relationships, even though we would otherwise consider us and them to be spiritually mature or spiritually minded people.
And one of the big things about that is that a lot of times people struggle alone and silently, right? And so you don't know what's going on. You may see them at church and they seem like they're doing great and they're smiling and they're dressed to the nines every time you see them, and it seems like their lives are great. You watch them on Instagram, you're like, oh man, they seem to be having all of this great stuff and hanging out with each other. And then you look at your partner, it's like, why can't we be like that? Right?
That's why I tell you all, stay off of social media and stop judging people on Instagram thinking they have the best life. They don't.
They don't, because that is
including
just not reality.
us.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's just not the reality. And so oftentimes community is what is needed. You need that community to kind of help and support you so you can live openly, authentically.
Community is it, yes.
Exactly. And so that's why we do what we do. A lot of the things that we do is in a group fashion because we know it takes things to another level.
It takes things to another level.
And sometimes people may say, well, it would be better for us to kind of do some of this work kind of individually or so forth. And there's a space for that, definitely.
Yeah.
But there is an element that, especially in a place like America, where we're all about kind of being individualistic and doing our own thing, we do that with our marriages as well. Whereas like we're doing our own thing all of the time. And that's not good. You need other people who you can count on, people you can just hang out with, spend time with. And so that's why we create things like these retreats, because we know that there are so many levels to this whole thing where you're going to get a lot out of it just by being with other people who are trying to do the same thing.
Exactly. And I said something a minute ago about how there's a multiplier effect when you do things in community that are positive with people who have good energy, a good vibe, and you vibe well with. There's a multiply effect on the fun factor, like in terms of how much you enjoy this, like, and you will enjoy it by yourself, like on a scale of 1 to 10 you might think is a 10, and then when you're enjoying it with other people, you have broken the scale.
Right.
You are like, wow, like I didn't even know I could experience this much joy. The same is true when you're suffering by yourself, because when you are suffering by yourself, whether you are depressed, whether you're anxious, whether you're afraid, whether you are feeling overwhelmed, when you do that by yourself and you are alone in your pain and nobody sees your pain, the multiplier effect of that is worse. So the pain that you experience, let's say your pain on a scale of 1 to 10 might have been an 8 out of a 10. When you're alone in your pain, now your pain has broken the scale. Right. Now you're overwhelmed, you're hopeless, you feel burdened, it's heavy, it's too much to bear, and that's a lot to carry. Right. And I think that too many of us in society are alone with our pain because we're ashamed of our pain. We're ashamed of the things that we're going through in our relationship. And we somehow believe, like, for whatever reason, either I don't want to burden anybody with my pain, I'm too ashamed to admit, you know, that I'm struggling in my relationship or in my marriage. I'm too ashamed to admit that I have mental health concerns. I'm too ashamed to admit that I have depression or anxiety or bipolar or whatever the case is. I'm too ashamed. And too many people are ashamed to talk about the truth and to talk about where they are and where they stand in reality. And I always say, listen, when you give yourself permission, right? Like when you give yourself permission to be imperfect, when you give yourself permission to need help, when you give yourself permission to ask for help, you also give me permission to be imperfect. You give me permission to ask for help. You give me permission to set myself free, right? And so yes, isolation is easy because of shame. Exactly. So it's like, but there is so much freedom that we can experience when we tell our truth and we share with each other and we share with trusted people in our community. When somebody else can see your pain, when you can come eye to eye with pain, it helps to relieve the pain. And I think, you know, just not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but I just wanted to say something about kind of like the husband-wife relationship with pain, because we oftentimes, like when people are struggling in marriages, I often ask them, like when I see a couple, I often ask them, who is your community? Who can you confide in? Who are friends of your marriage that can support you during this time? And 99 out of 100 will say no one. And I would be like, but what about your mom? Like, you told me like your mom is a great person, you love your mom. And they'll be like, yeah, but I don't want to burden them. And I'm like, but what about like your church community, you know, your small group and stuff like, and they're like, yeah, but you know, I don't really feel comfortable like sharing with them. And it's like, but this is your community. This is who God has blessed you, who God has given you. And you're afraid to share with the people who are literally closest to you. So who else is left?
Exactly.
And you're by yourself. And so because you're by yourself, your pain is multiplied. And the pain that you're experiencing in isolation is multiplied. And believe it or not, like going to a therapist is great. Like I'm a therapist. I 100% encourage people to go to therapy. But I simultaneously encourage my clients to go to their friends, their wise friends, that is, you know, their mentors at church, you know, trusted adults who they can trust, because that is also part of your community. And you also need that support, right? Like I don't feel like I'm enough. Like as a therapist, I'm like, I'm not enough to even carry the weight to help you carry the weight of your marriage.
Yeah, you need multiple trusted people. You know, interestingly, kind of, you know, talking about the retreat again, you know, at several retreats, what we do in those sessions sometimes is that we'll have breakout sessions where we'll have the men and the women that's kind of talking about certain types of things. And it's just always surprising to me, some of the things that are talked about and touched on, and how people after those sessions are like, man, I'm so glad I was a part of that discussion, because it touched on something that I needed to have touched on, that really kind of changed my perspective on myself, my relationship, and made me feel better about what was going on, you know? And so having those places, those communities that are safe, those communities that are curated well, where you can talk with people and not just always have those superficial conversations, but those real conversations, is like so critical. And for many, many people, one of the big things that are missing from their marriages, outside of maybe certain skills or whatever, is important, healthy people that they can talk to openly about what's going on. A lot of times we don't have that. And I think, you know, sometimes it's maybe because it's just really not there. But I think a lot of times it's also because we just don't really access those resources. We don't feel like we should or we need to, you know. But I'm telling you, if you're married, you need those resources. Point blank, period. You need those resources, because God did not create us to exist in isolation. Even our marriages shouldn't be in isolation. We need to make sure that we're connecting with people who have similar values and are trying to have healthy relationships. And they can pour into you in the same way that you pour into them. And you learn so much just being in a community of people who are trying to strive in the same direction as yourself.
Yes. And Leah asked if we are on TikTok. And we are on TikTok, but we are more so on Instagram than we are on TikTok. But we do have reels and stuff on TikTok as well. But yes. But any other question, guys? I know we have talked a lot. We just wanted to share kind of the deets of the Celebration of Love retreat in Belize for 2023. We have a very limited number of spots. We do not do big retreats. We do not do conferences type style retreats where there's like 100 or 200 couples. And so the experience of Belize, the goal of authentic marriages, Celebration of Love retreat, period, is for us to nurture and grow our marriages, grow closer to each other while exponentially experiencing the fun factor through our community, the support through our community, and so that you guys can actually build friendships and build real relationships with couples who are striving to go to the same place. Like we're all like on the trajectory of like, whether spiritually we're trying to go to the same place, professionally we have like a lot of career minded people striving to balance work and career and family and church obligations. And so we're all striving in the same direction, right? Like we want spiritually healthy, strong marriages. Simultaneously, we want to excel in our careers. We are probably the people in our families that are the first to graduate college or the first to be high income earners even in our families. And so we understand that there's even like a balance in juggling all of these multiple roles that we have on our heads, right? So if you guys have like any questions about the retreat, or you want us to talk about specific topics as it pertains to marriage, we would love to hear your feedback. Send me a DM so that way I can keep a running list of all the topics that people have sent us. And we would be happy to respond to do a live on a particular topic or answer a very specific question about your relationship. We can also come on live and you can shoot us that question and we can do a live on that topic, right? So one of my specialties is talking about trauma. I love talking about trauma and mental health, all things mental health related. And so Jared is a child and adolescent psychiatrist. And so he has his own unique set of skills that he brings to the table with that. And I, as a couples therapist and a trauma therapist, as well as working with new moms, postpartum moms, those are sort of like my three specialty areas that I love to talk about. So if there's anything that aligns with that you want to know more about, or you want us to talk more about, we would be happy to flesh that out for you guys in one of our lives. So we're aiming to do a live twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so we look forward to joining. Well, we're going to skip this Thursday because this Thursday is Thanksgiving, or we may pop in, I don't know. But look out for us on Tuesday and Thursdays, and you can always catch the replay on YouTube as well as on Instagram. So it was great talking to you guys today.
Yeah, we're looking forward to as many of you can come with us to Belize 2023 Celebration of Love retreat. We're really, really excited, guys. Hope you can join us. It's going to be a blast. You're going to miss out. You see the pictures and the videos afterwards. You're like, man, I should have gone. Definitely don't miss out. Jamaica was such a great time. And I know so many people who wanted to come and they saw the videos and the pictures and they were like, oh, God, I wish I was there with you guys. You guys have had so much fun. Don't miss out on Belize. It's going to be a great, great time. So join us.
Yes. All right, friends. It was so good connecting with you all today, and we will connect with you later.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.